Hello, everybody, and welcome back to another episode of the Cinema Wave podcast here at the Culture Wave Media Network. And we are back talking more Star Wars with episode 4 of Skeleton Crew. This episode is titled Can't Say I Remember No at Atten. I am one of your hosts. My name is Darian Scalamoni. I am joined by Mark Jacobino.
What's up, Darian?
As always.
We're back.
We're back. Scurvy. All right, so this was one we were coming off last week's episode that we loved.
Yeah.
We adored it. It was probably... I'm speaking for myself. You can speak and let me know. But it was one of my favorite streaming TV episodes of Star Wars in a very long time. We were really vibing with Jude Law, and I'm really excited about what Jude Law is doing in the show. And he kind of takes a back seat in this episode.
Yeah.
And the other thing we were really anticipating is that the Daniels directed this episode. So first thing... Did it feel like the Daniels directed this episode, first of all? And second of all, how did you feel about this episode? Because it is the lowest rated of the 4 episodes thus far on IMDb. Yeah. And did you not like it? Were you disappointed, or did you enjoy it still this week?
Sure. Yeah. So I would say the Daniels had their moments in this episode where they kind of injected themselves. I don't think it's super omnipresent throughout the episode. I think they do a good job, though. And again, we've talked about it. I think a lot of directors are a bit handcuffed when they're working in Star Wars, unfortunately. As for the episode, it's interesting because I did really enjoy it because it has those strong character moments. It's really heartfelt. We get some really good performances from some of the actors, especially Fern. She really surprised me in this episode. But I can also understand that there are some pieces of this episode that probably wouldn't land with people. I'm thinking of the convenience of the Jod storyline, how he kind of saves the day out of nowhere in the end. The tribe that the kids get kind of taken in by, and they're like, all right, you're going to train with us, and then we're going to go out and do a mission, and then you can go see the hidden temple. And it was very clunky, but I also enjoyed the environmental storytelling around the planet, and I thought that did a lot of the heavy lifting, that we didn't necessarily need to know a lot about any of the tribes and what happened on the planet, but we just understood that this planet was similar to Atten at one point, and it's just evolved into anarchy. And what caused that, we don't know, but it's another strength of the show that it always brings up these mysteries, and it answers one question but then brings up 5 more, which is always what you want out of mystery. You don't want it to just tell you what it is from episode 3.
Yeah.
So I enjoyed it, but I do understand where people are coming from, and I can see why people would have it low rated, but I wouldn't say it's the weakest of all 4 episodes.
So you don't think it's the worst or the weakest of the 4 episodes?
No, I don't think so. How about you?
I'm going back and forth in my head about it because I do agree. I think there were some strong character moments. Fern was one that stood out, but Neel obviously had a very...
Neel Nation.
Neel had a great episode.
Neel
and just a great arc and things happening with his character. I do agree the Jod thing that happens towards the end feels very convenient, and you're also like, how did this even happen? And we're not going to get any context or why.
I have a theory for it, but we'll get into it after your thoughts. Yeah.
But it at least makes sense in terms of right before that, you see him take the credits, and you know that he's going to be doing something with them, and he was really kind of taking for himself, but he got himself out of a situation which is very... that's what a character like him is going to do. Right. He's going to do everything he can to get himself out of situations. And I still do think it was cool to get that hero shot of him because, like I said, there's just something about the allure of his character that makes me excited. It's like how I feel about Din. It's not to that level yet, obviously, because Din has 3 seasons established and a deeper sort of iconography about not only his look but the way his character has been. But there's something about Jod that has me excited for this is a new character in Star Wars that I'm excited to follow and I want to learn more about. And I also love how even when he comes and kind of saves the day, you get the real moment with the kids, when they run over to him and he's hugging them and he's rubbing Neel's head. I'm like, this is cute. It's very obvious that he still cares for these kids even if he still has an ulterior motive. But I think as a whole, I agree with you in terms of just the planet, the people that take them into. It's just there were a lot of conveniences in this episode, despite them bringing up more questions towards the end. I think it ended strong, the episode. Yeah. But there were parts in the middle where I was like, all right, this one isn't flowing as well as the other ones had for me. That's how I felt.
I think because comparatively to other Star Wars live action TV shows, usually these clunky parts would land very poorly for me, and I probably think they would land poorly for you. But I think because it has a lot of other strengths in its storytelling, I'm more forgiving of it.
100%.
And those moments, I mean, I would definitely say that the tribe portion of it was very much a device to get Neel separated from the other ones in the group, to have that
Give him the
tight
moment.
like character moment with the girl, who I thought was great. She was great as well, the tribe girl who saves them and takes them in. So I think that was maybe an uncreative way of separating him, but I think all those character moments and the mystery still being very engaging saved the episode for me, at least.
Yeah, well, I think too, the Neel moment is the obvious one, but I think even through those little training sequences, you start to get an idea of what every character's role is going to be going forward within their group.
Yeah.
If they get themselves in a certain situation, right? Like, Wim is always going to be the one that puts himself out there the most and is trying to be the bravest of them all. Fern is going to try to be, she's the smartest, obviously. She's the most calculated. And KB, I mean, you see her, how she's able to fire a gun better than anybody at that point. And
True.
you recognize that immediately. You're like, okay, she's the gunner. Like, you
Right.
can recognize that immediately, that that's who she's going to be. And then with Neel's character, you start to see that so much of what is built in him is the hope of his character, and how there's really a piece to him that he wants to keep. And Hayna is the character that has a relationship with him. And I think we'll eventually see her down the road again. I think that's obviously a character that I don't think they just put her there for no reason when she gets that much screen time in an episode.
That's fair. Yeah, I think they do a good job of spotlighting these kids throughout these episodes. The first episode and the second episode is really Wim's 2 episodes, and then the third episode is KB and Jod, and then this episode we get Neel and Fern having the spotlight. So I like how they've done that over the first half of the season, and now moving into the back half, they're all established. We know their arcs, we know their main traits, and now we can really dive deeper with them moving forward.
Yeah, so that was the other thing I was going to ask you. So we know the show is 8 episodes, at least this first season, right? We don't know if there's going to be a season 2. I don't think it was ever completely pitched as like this is going to be a limited series. They were just saying this is a new Star Wars show. But they do these things obviously with their arc. So like we're at the mid-season point at this point.
Yeah.
And a lot of times for Star Wars shows, maybe with the exception of The Acolyte, they've been able to hit something at that mid-season point, right?
Right.
Do you feel like they were able to do something that maybe something that was bigger that we haven't really noticed yet? I mean, I do think that the mystery that we get at the end, when we start to see that all these planets, at Akron, they said at Atnia, and then at Aten is obviously where they're looking for, and the coordinates are ripped out.
Yeah.
But do you think that I mean, you said you have theories. We can dive into the theories if you want.
Yeah, I mean, I would say it's probably more consistent, and it feels like it's more made by people who genuinely care about the property and wanted to tell this story instead of a boardroom, which I feel like a lot of other shows have felt like. So I would agree that, Ahsoka, their mid-season finale, like that one was really cool. We had the lightsaber fight with Balin and Ahsoka. Ahsoka falls off the cliff. Sabine gives over the map. Like that was a big
mid-season.
Yeah, it felt big. I understand comparing it to this. It doesn't feel as big, but I think Ahsoka also had, in the moment I enjoyed them, but looking back, I think the first 3 episodes were very spotty, like not that great. Whereas for Skeleton Crew, I think it's been much more consistent. Even if it's not reaching the highs, I think it's consistently been good. And I think it'll hopefully lead to a point where it's not like other shows where it's a really good mid-season, then it goes back down and has a messy finale. I'm hoping it's more of an upward climb and it keeps getting better and better and better. And the payoff in the end is just going to feel way more satisfying because they built it up much better than the other shows.
Well, that's what I think. I think there's so much, you use the word mystery. There's so much illusion in the show. There's so many things that they keep alluding to the fact that Aten stands for something bigger or it means something bigger. And we're patiently, but it feels like they're confidently unraveling layers. You know what I mean? Like, and I think that's what you talked about towards like the competence of like the filmmakers and like the writers of the show. Like, it just feels like they have a complete arc that they're building toward, which makes me excited for it. We get a lot of let's talk about the stuff that happens on Ad Akron, right?
Sure.
Because diving into the episode a little bit deeper, they basically have this. What is it? They basically get like pulled in.
They get
Ad Akron, right?
Yeah, they get the coordinates from Kim last episode, which they don't know if it's Ad Adden or not. They just have them. They think it's Ad Adden, so they go and then they get pulled in by a tractor beam, and then they land, and then they're like, "Wow, this looks like Ad Adden, but it's all destroyed. What's going on here?"
Yeah.
And they see it's a war-torn planet with like tribal warfare between people who presumably used to be like them, who used to be the data analysts and all this, and part of the big machine. And I really liked the environmental storytelling of not, having this big exposition dump of, 20 years ago, we used to all be analysts.
Yes, I agree.
And now we're all war. Like, you just understand that based on the setting. Again, the Earth-like things are still here because they show up and the playground is like a playground you would see here. And I was like, why are they still doing this? Like, there's a slide, there's like the spinning thing. It's like, if you had a bunch of aliens, like, does an alien fit on that? I don't think so. Like, this isn't realistic. It's not realistic. I know I'm complaining about playgrounds, but
we're complaining about science fiction.
Immersion is important.
I agree.
And so, but yeah, the environmental storytelling is really cool. And yeah, they essentially get taken into this tribe, and I would say the tribe was really setting them up to be cannon fodder. Like, they were going to send the kids out to get attacked by the other tribe, and that would be their ability to jump on it. But it was a little clunky in the way they executed that.
Yeah.
But essentially, the big point of it was to have Neel have this conversation with Hayna, you said?
Yes, Hayna.
Hayna. So what did you think of,
I
of
think
Neel and Hayna?
the one thing I did like about it, and this is why I'm so back and forth on some of it, because I thought the intro to her character and to the tribe in general was cool.
Yes.
And it reminded me on, like, I was talking about, it's so weird because I was watching a movie recently and it reminded me of this. Like, it takes you back to some of those movies that had like that gang warfare mentality, like obviously not like as gritty as like The Warriors, but then there's like The Lost Boys or like Lord of the Flies. Like, it gave you that vibe, which I appreciate. When I talked about this last week, I think it was, when what they do in Star Wars is they pay tribute to other mediums and other sort of filmmaking techniques and filmmaking genres, and then place it within the world of Star Wars, where I think that makes a lot more sense when it's like, we're making a Star Wars fan that's just for Star Wars fans. And it's like, that doesn't always work.
Right.
You know what I mean? And I think that what they've been successful in is integrating these things that feel different to Star Wars that could still play a major role in what the current nature of Star Wars is becoming. You know what I mean? So on that side of it, I liked it. On the other side of it, it's like, all right, I have to suspend disbelief that there's just a crew of kids running around that are killing everybody, because it's like a massive group of children, warriors. You know what I mean? Yeah. And that whole thing, it's like, I don't know, like,
well, there were some adults in there.
There were some adults in there, but like even the guy, no offense to the guy who played the older guy, but I was like, I didn't love his acting necessarily.
Oh, the guy with the stick that kept.
Yes, yeah. I thought, and I agree with what you're saying. A lot of it is really just convenient setup for our main characters, but sometimes that's needed.
Sure.
And you're just establishing these things with our main crew, essentially. And I like you said, that Neel and Fern get their moments this week. I'm still waiting. And Wim does get his moments in the first 2 episodes, but I think I'm waiting on something with Wim. I'm still sitting there like, there needs to be something bigger with him. Whether it's something where he has a conversation with Jod because of how much Jod is symbolic to him now at this point. But we're only halfway through the show, so I'm just being greedy because I'm actually enjoying Star Wars for the first time.
Yeah, no, this is great. This is great. Yeah, so I want to talk about Jod's moment in this episode. You know, we have Jod essentially saving the day, and we see that he has the Republic credits. He finds them, and he gives them back their livestock. He pays the other tribe, and he's like, "Oh,
Eopes, I think
the Eopes." He's
Eopes.
he's like, "Yeah, I got your stock." And they're like, "Do you want pelts? What do you want?" And he's like, "Those 4 kids." Yeah. And they're like, "These 4 kids?" And he's like, great. "Yeah, those will do."
Yeah.
And so I thought that was funny. But I think what will be revealed is that Jod didn't pay off these people. He kept the credits for himself. And whether he used the Jedi mind trick, if he actually does have the Force, or if he dispatched them. I mean, this is Crimson Jack. This is a Jack Sparrow type character. We know that he's cunning. We know that he might be able to do this. And I think it'll be a moment that'll happen later in the show where these Republic credits show up again, and these kids are like, "Wait, I thought you used those to pay for the things back on that planet." And then he's kind of revealed to be like kind of underhanded with these kids. And I think that'll be what will be revealed, because it was off camera. So there is that
100%.
there is that suspension of, did he actually pay them off, or did he swindle them and now he's swindling the kids because now he has these Republic credits? He didn't have to do anything. So that's my theory. Again, it's not outside the realm of possibility that Disney has a very convenient wrap up to an episode, but I think the show has earned a bit of my trust that it'll pay off.
I think the thing that's most interesting about, which after the first episode, you were saying, or it might have been the second episode, whenever, it's second episode because that's when he gets the key. And I was like, oh, we know he's a Jedi. And you're like, well, we don't know he's a Jedi. We know that he's doing something to get that key. But I think it's interesting where we're still seeing moments where he utilizes it because he has to around the kids versus like I think about, like, you're right. I'm not denying that's a good theory and guess onto what could have possibly happened. But then we get this moment with 33 where like there's a very serious threat. Like he's about to kill Neel. Like he's definitely about to kill Neel. And instead of trying to do something with the Force or do something that is Jedi-like, he runs up and just turns him off really quick.
It's true. Yeah. True.
And so that is intriguing to me too with this character. And I think that's why I like his character so much, because there's so much mystery around him. And playing off of the kids, it can manipulate even the audience at times, because you're like, oh, like I'm just taking it for what it is. Yeah. You know what I mean? Like, because this is somebody that these kids really trust in. And like you said, like, it's what made Johnny Depp's portrayal of Jack Sparrow so beloved, is because you're like, I know this dude is not a great dude, but I like watching him. You know what I mean? Like, even if he's swindling people left and right, like there's something to that. So I'm definitely intrigued to see where they go going forward with his character and his relationship with the kids. I think that overall, through 4 episodes, I'm still really on board with the show, which is great. There hasn't been anything that's like completely thrown me off course. Yeah. So did you have any other bigger theories that you've been thinking about? There was one thing I thought you had brought up earlier. I don't know if it was the Jedi mind trick thing you were thinking about.
Yeah.
Or no, that was the larger overall scene.
Yeah, no, that was really my main one around Jod, because now my first theory that the kids were going to find out that these other planets aren't destroyed, because Kim said that the jewel planets were destroyed. It was just Ad-Adden that was left, but they made it to essentially what we think is another jewel planet, because there's the kind of temple room at the end that has them all. They has all the coordinates.
Yeah.
And so that theory's out the window. They're obviously not destroyed, so they've all been hidden essentially, and some have fallen into disrepair and they're just anarchy. I'm wondering if they use the map in that room to go to another one, see what's going on there. Like, is another one similar to Ad-Adden, or is another one like this planet, and they're all kind of in an anarchy type state? So I'm very curious to see where that goes. I'm curious if, the commissioner that they're talking about on Ad-Adden is also the commissioner of all these planets, or if it's just like each one has their own kind of commissioner. I don't know though. It's very interesting. It seems like it's leaning more towards the less mystical elements of Star Wars, and it'll be more grounded of a treasure, but I'm still holding out hope that there's some cool like Force type mystery to these planets, and it's not just an actual treasure, an actual like treasure trove,
like a relic
credits or something like that.
What was the one thing I was just going to ask you in terms of so 33 reveals that his captain was the one that told him to
forget
and get rid of the coordinates and destroy anybody that ever asked about Ad-Adden ever again.
Right.
Any thoughts on what that could mean? Any thoughts on who the captain could have been?
No, I'm not gonna go member berries. I'm thinking it's just a pirate captain that we never heard of yet. I'm just gonna go with that, because I would love to see Hondo, but I don't think this is Hondo's work. This isn't Hondo's work.
Doesn't seem like Hondo's work. But I do think, again, even that, like, I think it would be cool it's cool to start building into the lore, all these different things that still feel original, and they don't feel like it's like, all right, this is just forcing itself within the world of Star Wars.
Yeah, well, they always talk about like the Glup Shido effect of like this random side character, Star Wars side character that only like 5 people know about, and it's like, oh, it's him. Yeah. That's the pirate guy. Exactly. Like, I hope it's not that. It's just like a new character, blank slate. That would be really fun.
Yeah, I agree. Anything else in this week's episode? It's not filled with so many questions necessarily, and like I said, it's not a deeper thinking episode. No. But we do get those character moments that we really enjoyed with Neel and Fern, I feel.
Yeah, I love the last shot of this episode. It's like Neel passing out and the camera cutting to black. They're like, Neel, wake up. I thought that was hilarious. I thought the lighting in this episode for a Star Wars show was actually good. Like, I thought I was interested in the lighting of the scenes. I was like, oh, this actually looks good, and it's not super dim and terribly washed out. Like, there was the scene, obviously, where Neel gets the kiss on the trunk, and it's like a nice shot, and it's like him in his glory. And then even the scene with the introduction that you said of the tribe leader, where, you know, he's sitting down and it's just one beam of light kind of covering half his face. I'm like, these are interesting shots for Star Wars. This is good. So I thought the lighting was good.
I think that could have been a lot of the Daniels too.
You know, I'll give them some credit there.
Yeah,
hopefully that was their footprint.
I think I was just not that I think it still was a well-directed episode. I think I was just anticipating coming off of Everything Everywhere All at Once. It was like, oh, we're gonna get like a big action sort of thing, but I think it was really more to get their feet wet with like franchise filmmaking. Like, they've literally never stepped foot in anything like this ever, and they clearly love, like, they've talked about that they love Star Wars. So it would be cool to see them return in the future for other Star Wars episodes, because I just think they're brilliant filmmakers. So it would be cool to see them put their stamp on some more Star Wars
I think
stuff.
the main shot that you get from them is the SM, when SM kind of goes crazy and we get that fisheye type look. I think that was like they were like, we're doing this.
Yes, which was, and I'm glad you brought that up, because I forgot about it for a second. But when that came up, I was like, "Whoa! I've never seen that in Star Wars before."
Yeah.
So they definitely had their hand in some things, and I'm really digging the homages. Like I said, it's probably been my favorite part of the show, has been how I feel like they've interweaved these other, sort of filmmaking techniques and other worlds and genres within the world of Star Wars, and it feels natural. It doesn't feel like something that's forced. So it's a complete television show, Mark.
So far,
we're getting excited about normal filmmaking techniques in Star Wars.
Isn't this great?
It's so great. It's so great to come on every week and not complain about Star Wars. Genuinely,
4 more episodes. Keep it up. Please.
Keep it up. Next week we got the episodes dropping, I guess, on Christmas Eve, right?
Yeah, I don't even know when I'm gonna watch this damn episode.
Yeah, we will be back next week. We
Yes.
will be recording. It'll probably be after Christmas. So happy holidays to all of you. Bear with us as we watch Skeleton Crew and get excited to talk about the back half of the season with you guys. But let us know in the comments, what are your guys' thoughts on episode 4 of season 1 of Skeleton Crew? We're digging the show so far. We hope you guys are as well. Let us know in the comments what you guys thought about the whole Neel arc. Obviously, Neel is like the MVP, I feel like, of this week's episode. And I know people are really digging his character. So we'd love to have a conversation with you guys in the comments. And like the video if you can, and subscribe to us here at the Culture Wave Media Network. We're covering all things film and TV. We got episodes up right now of Lord of the Rings, the War of Rohirrim, the anime film. We also have our Golden Globe predictions up. Liz and I just wrapped up Yellowstone, and we're getting ready right after this to record our episode on Secret Level, the animated video game anthology series on Prime Video. So hope you guys are looking forward to that. And if you don't follow us on social media, all those handles are under me right now. We're on Instagram, we're on TikTok, we're on Facebook, we're on Threads, everywhere. You guys can find us. You guys can follow us there. And I want to give Mark a second to just plug his own podcast that is Star Wars centric as well.
Yeah, you need to take a breath. That was a lot.
I got it.
You're too good, Darian. You're too good, because I'm going to stumble through this. But yeah, I run the Star Wars Mark of Balance podcast. I go a little bit deeper into Star Wars. We're pretty casual here, but on that side, I talk books, TV, video games, anything Star Wars related. I'm probably talking about it. So you can follow me on Instagram at @star_wars_Mark of Balance, and would love to see you over there. So
absolutely.
Thanks.
Thank you, Mark, for being here every week with us. Just signing off. I am Darian Scalamoni.
I'm Mark Jacobino.
And we will see you guys next time.
This is The Culture.